Next on the Sheila Smoot Show, blocks of homes empty and abandoned, foreclosed and forgotten.
Now nobody does anything. It's just terrible.
Mortgage fraud is still hurting home buyers. What you need to know before trying to buy.
You go back to the bank that you've been negotiating with under a foreclosure, and that bank is saying, well, we told you we're selling it as is.
And our Consumer Squad tackles the foreclosures process.
And now you get a judge to start looking at this, and that can give you some hope.
The Sheila Smoot Show starts right now.
I'm here in the East Lake neighborhood right here in Birmingham, Alabama. Now, you know, folks, someone could do a case study on the recent real estate crash right here. I was shocked to find row after row of empty houses. Many people living here simply walked away, pushed out by foreclosure and fraud. Now, all these empty homes are driving down property values and putting pressure on those left behind. Today, I want to show you how these abandoned houses are affecting anyone out there trying to get a mortgage. For decades, a house with a white picket fence represented the dream of home ownership, but not here. Right next door sits the burned out shell of a house. Across the street, an abandoned church. And around the block, rows of empty houses, all abandoned. Inside, anything of value from wiring to windows has been stripped out. There are no neighbors here. Many of the people were forced out by foreclosures. Either they couldn't pay their mortgage or their landlords let the houses go back to the bank. One of those former landlords is this man, who asked us to conceal his identity.
I feel terrible about it. You know, the houses that are not being lived in, the yards go down, the houses go down. If something's not done in an amount of time, it's just going to be a house that falls in. You know, it's going to be a eyesore for the neighborhood, and I mean, I feel very bad about that.
He purchased 4 homes as an investment. The pitch, instant equity, and guaranteed income. All the homes were supposed to be freshly remodeled and ready for Section 8 renters. But once he got a closer look at the houses, he quickly realized he'd been scammed.
All he did was go in and put in an AC unit and say the house was Section 8 ready. Across the board, it was fraudulent activity from the mortgage side, from the appraiser side. I warn people, buyer beware.
Our scam victim spent about 2 years pouring money into the homes, trying to get them up to standard. After an electrical fire and a revolving door of bad renters, he felt he had no choice. He put the keys in an envelope and mailed them back to the bank.
Well, I went into this as an investment opportunity, and it turned out to be fraud. And I would warn anybody out there to do diligence on the front end to make sure that it doesn't happen to you as well. 3
mortgage fraud rings operating in Birmingham were busted under Operation Stolen Dreams. Those people eventually went to jail. The homes they used as bait, well, they're just sitting there. I walked through the neighborhood and found many vacant properties standing open, unoccupied, and abandoned. I also met longtime resident Charles Boyd. He can tell you how long every home has been empty.
That house on the end, it's been empty over 4 years now. The White House, when Miss Francis, she passed away and no one moved back then yet.
He's lived here since 1988 and remembers a different neighborhood.
At one time, we had so many people over here that just really cared about being here. Now it just seems like the landlords, these people that's not doing anything, they're just sitting there and their houses is just going down, but it's taken away from my house too.
This home used to have a backyard swimming pool. Today, that pool is a hazardous pit, partially covered with overgrown vines and rotted lumber.
You really don't know who's over there in them houses now. You really don't, because they don't come and check and they don't do anything for them. I mean, it's just absolutely terrible.
Meanwhile, these empty houses stand as a symbol of the housing boom and the housing bust. Reminders how the American dream can quickly turn into a nightmare for everyone. Again, mortgage fraud is investigated by the FBI, and the Bureau has cases all across the country. Now, they say the next emerging scheme involves loan modifications because many banks can't or will not modify a mortgage. Now, crooked companies are popping up all over. Here's the simplest way to spot the scam. They want an upfront fee to help. Those fees range from $1,500 to $5,000. Once you pay, the crooked lender disappears. Now, we're looking into this scheme and we're going to report back to you in a later episode. For now, if you've been the victim of a housing scam, here's what I want you to do. Visit the website loanscamalert.org. There's information here to help you, and you can also call the Homeowners Hope Hotline, 1-888-995-4673. That's 1-888-995-HOPE. Now, here's a look at what's coming up next.
After the break, our Consumer Squad tackles the foreclosures process. What you should do right now to protect your rights.
I'll say this, if the mortgage company has lied to you, particularly about the date of the foreclosure, then you have the option to sue.
The Sheila Smoot Show continues in a moment. This portion of the Sheila Smoot Show is brought to you by Atmosphere Home Essentials, your source for modern and contemporary furniture.
Welcome back in. I'm Sheila Smoot. Earlier I showed you how fraud has turned the American dream into a nightmare. Many people are struggling and are on the brink of foreclosure. I recently had the chance to sit down with attorney John Watts. He's on our Consumer Squad and our expert on foreclosures. We're talking to attorney John Watts today to talk to you about how to get out of your foreclosure woes. John, it's good to have you back. As always, you are one of my favorite folks. And you know what? A lot of the foreclosures have been going on. In fact, in Alabama, that's where we are today, in Alabama alone, there's just so many people dealing with this. What seems to be the main problem that you're seeing as an attorney when people come to you about foreclosure?
You know, the biggest problem that we see is as somebody is facing foreclosure, they're desperately trying to save their house. They're trying to get a loan modification, trying to work with the company, and they are not being told the truth by the mortgage companies. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing we see is there's a foreclosure date coming up, and the mortgage company will say, look, we've postponed that foreclosure date, we canceled it, let's continue to work this thing out. We want you to stay in your home. Mm-hmm. And the homeowner goes, you know, I'm going to be able to save my home. And then a few days later, they get a letter that says, we foreclosed on you. Now you got to get out of your house. And it's just this incredible shock because you're so worried, but then you get hope, and then that hope is snatched away. And that's what we really see the most of in our office.
How are they allowed to do that? They've talked to the consumer, the homeowner, and said, oh, don't worry about it, we're not going to foreclose on you. But they, in fact, days later come back and do that. What is it that has prompted that action when, in essence, they said, we're not going to do that?
Well, they would have a different view than I do.
I'm sure.
But my view is they're doing that because once you get beyond that foreclosure date, you lose a lot of options. In other words, before foreclosure, you can file bankruptcy. That'll stop the foreclosure. You may have a relative that can help you get caught up. Mm-hmm. But when you are 1 second past foreclosure, bankruptcy doesn't do any good normally. Your rich relative can't really do anything. And so you lose a lot of your rights. So based on the cases we've had, it certainly looks like they're trying to lull you into a sense of, hey, everything's going to be okay. And then as soon as that foreclosure date happens, now you're out of options. And you get hit with these letters from lawyers saying, you got to get out of your house, we're going to sue you. And most people say, there's nothing I can do.
They walk away. Do they have to walk away? Or is there any other options when it gets to that point?
I'll say this, if the mortgage company has lied to you, particularly about the date of the foreclosure, saying it's been postponed, rescheduled, canceled, and it would have made a difference had you known the truth, then you have the option to sue. Okay? And the way that foreclosures work in Alabama is we're not like Florida and these other states where the mortgage company sues you to foreclose. Instead, it just happens privately. It's almost like a repossession.
Wow.
But then to get you out of your house, now they have to sue you. And so we use that often as an opportunity to counterclaim against a mortgage company, because now we can get it in front of a judge. Now a judge can look at all this and say, was it a proper foreclosure? Does this company even own the loan? That's a big problem.
That's a big problem.
Did they lie to you? Did they follow all the rules and regulations? And now you get a judge to start looking at this, and that can give you some hope.
All right, and that's what we want. We want to at least start with hope. And folks, again, John, thank you so much for that information. Hope is the key word. And folks, we hope that you're going to get this information. If you want to contact John Watts, our attorney on our Consumer Squad, you can do that every day of the week. Click on the Consumer Squad link. You'll find his contact information, and hopefully we will help you with this foreclosure situation. Folks, we definitely don't want you to lose your home. Don't go away. More to come up right after this.
Foreclosed homes. Buy or stay away. Our Consumer Squad examines the risks and benefits of buying a distressed property.
You're not only negotiating with the owner of that property, you are negotiating with the bank.
And where to get the training to start a new skilled trade.
We need folks that are going to go through the education portion as well as build that on-the-job experience.
We continue our weekly profile of Go Build Alabama. The Sheila Smoot Show continues in a moment.
Got a question? Give me a call on my tip line at 378-TIPS. That's 378-8477.
Good to have you here, and I am Sheila Smoot, and we've got our favorite mortgage guy. I know, folks, if you want to buy a home, I know you think it's tough and those kinds of things, but for those of you who are buying or trying to get pre-approved, a lot of things are happening. And for those of you who want to buy in a different way, maybe a foreclosure, maybe a short sale, what's the difference? There is one. Damien's going to explain that to us. How you doing today, Damien?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Sheila?
Good to have you here, along with your banner of Wells Fargo. Good to have them along as well. Short sale, foreclosure, what's the difference?
Well, again, that great question. A lot of people think it's one and the same. Short sale is when there's an actual owner in a property, either in a distressed situation or, in a situation where they have to relocate, can't sell the property. And they go to the bank and say, look, I cannot sell this property for, if we just use around $100,000. The market only sustains $80,000. Okay, houses in the area are selling for $80,000, but they owe $100,000.
I see.
Okay, that owner is in a short sale situation when they go back to the bank and say, look, I can't sell the property. I don't want to foreclose. So at that point, that's when that owner that's looking to sell is going back to the bank. Now, what does that mean to the consumer? To the consumer, it's a lengthy process, okay? Because you are looking at purchasing a property for $80,000, okay? There is a $100,000 loan on it. So the bank is now, you're not only negotiating with the owner of that property, you are negotiating with the bank in a roundabout way. You're not directly, but in a way you are. The difference from a short sale to a foreclosure is a lot different. In fact, when you've got an individual that's lost the property, okay, they lost the property.
Right.
They've either been foreclosed on, they've lost that property, and the bank is now the owner and who you are negotiating with. Again, the short sale, you're negotiating with the seller that may be in a distressed situation or owner that's in that property. Now, in a foreclosure situation, you as a consumer, you are now negotiating with the bank. So which one is better? What I always tell people, if you can do a short sale, try to do that. If you can go after a short sale, that's great, because now you have an owner that has a vested interest in trying, if there's any issues with that property, when you do an appraisal, if you get an inspector out there that looks and you're looking at purchasing that property, there may be some issues with that property. And that owner that's in the property, they have a vested interest in trying to fix that. They're motivated to get rid of this property, so they're going to fix those minor issues that make.
And what does the bank do with the $20,000? I mean, it's all.
That's something that the bank has to decide. Is it worth us looking at either charging that off, or taking it as a loss, a short sale, hence the word short sale.
Foreclosure, quickly.
Foreclosure, again, that is when you have a distressed buyer that has actually lost the property. Again, that consumer is negotiating with the bank.
So the bank is the owner.
The bank is the owner. Bank is the owner. The seller, they are the ones that you're negotiating with. And again, the problem with that is that bank is selling that property as is. So as a consumer, a lot of times if you don't have good counsel, and there's a lot of great realtors in this city, but you want to make sure that you have somebody that's telling you, look, when you go in and you write a contract on this property, you have to know that bank is not going to fix, in a lot of circumstances, they're not going to.
Yeah, it's going to be on you, but that's why it's a foreclosure. You're getting a deal, and you can negotiate with the bank.
Right. But the problem comes in when you make that offer on that foreclosure. If your appraiser or your home inspector finds out that there's some major structural issues, plumbing issues, anything that can impede the process of you getting to closing, the underwriter on the bank side that's trying to get you qualified to purchase that home, because again, we're not just looking at your credit, we're also looking at the collateral that you're looking at purchasing.
They may tell you to walk away.
They may, well, we're not going to tell you to walk away. We're going to say, this is the only way we can finance it. If you fix the stairs, if you fix the plumbing, you go back to the bank that you've been negotiating with under a foreclosure, and that bank is saying, well, we told you we're selling it as is. So that's where the negotiation breaks down. So it's critical that you have somebody that understands short sale versus foreclosure, a realtor, anybody that's in that process, your inspector, your loan officer, and your realtor. If they understand that process, you won't get into that situation. So it's good to seek good. It's great to seek good counsel when it comes down to doing that.
It really is. Well, I've learned something today. Short sale, foreclosure, there is a difference, and basically you've got to know what that difference is. All right, Damien, it's always a pleasure having you here. Damien Gilbert, folks, with Wells Fargo. If you want to get in touch with him, find out more about purchasing a home, owning a home, foreclosure, short sale, he knows all of that. And guess what? His advice is absolutely free. Folks, go ahead, buy that house. Buy, buy, buy. The banks say they are lending. All right, folks, don't go away. There's more information, lots for you. Don't go away. I got a lot of things coming up right after this.
This segment of Your Side with Sheila Smoot is sponsored by Go Build Alabama. Learn more at gobuildalabama.com.
Welcome back in. I'm Sheila Smoot. Thanks for joining us. A nationwide shortage of skilled workers could stall the economic recovery. That's a trend a program called Go Build Alabama hopes to avoid. Today in our Go Build report, how to get the training you need for a career you've always wanted.
I'm Ken Simonson. I'm Chief Economist for Associated General Contractors of America. This is actually a great time to be thinking about entering construction. We've been through a terrible down cycle that's lasted 5 years now, but it really seems to be at a turning point. More and more areas of private construction are beginning to turn up. And because of the long slump, a lot of people have left the industry and many more have avoided going into it.
The biggest reason is because we just don't have people that are coming into the trades that are willing to take the time and effort to, learn the skill and fully master the trade. You know, we need folks that are going to go through the education portion as well as build that on-the-job experience.
Somebody who's starting out now, starting to acquire the skills, I think they're going to see lots of opportunity open up in the next several years. This will be a great time to begin to earn the skills, and then a couple of years from now, I think there will be opportunity all over the country to work in construction.
They can find out more about construction careers at the website, gobuildalabama.com. Not only will they find out information about the trades, but they'll find out where those training programs are located throughout the state, and they'll also find out a lot of information that they can use to determine what trades they might be interested in. Occupational outlook information, as far as, you know, projections of how many jobs might be available in Alabama in the future, all the way back to, you know, what types of skills I need to work in this particular profession. On that website, they can find information about more than, you know, 112 different jobs in the construction industry. So gobuildalabama.com, and they can learn all about the commercial industrial construction industry and the trades there.
Got a question? Give me a call on my tip line at 378-TIPS. That's 378-8477.
Welcome back. As you've seen, foreclosures and fraud are leaving a giant hole in our community. I hope this program has given you the information that you need to protect your home and your rights. And for those out there still struggling, be sure and seek help from legitimate companies. And remember, I'm always listening to your side. We'll see you next week.